First of all, I want to wish everyone a Shana Tova, and may you be in the book of life and have a healthy and happy new year. And if I accidentally butchered that, I apologize. My Hebrew is not very great, as my friend David would point out to me. It is a true honor to be here today, and in many ways, each of us that are here are both standing for life and rejecting those dark forces of barbarism that we saw unleashed on the world on October 7th. And to be clear, October 7th was not just an attack on Israel, it was an attack on the innocent from so many different countries. I went to Israel twice last year in 2023. In some ways, it was like visiting two different countries. In March, I had the honor of, along with my friend, the Attorney General of North Carolina, A.G. Stein, of leading a bipartisan delegation of state attorney generals from around the country to Israel. And we did something different in our trip. We actually first took my colleagues. Our first stop was actually, we did a detour. We flew into Poland, went to Auschwitz. And in many ways, we saw the worst of humanity, saw the face of evil. And then we flew from Auschwitz directly to Israel, which in many ways we saw the best of humanity. Really, the only functioning democracy in the Middle East, a place that guarantees everyone the ability of worship, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, things we take for granted in our country, but in so many areas of the world is not available to its citizens. And then in November, about a month after October 7th, I got a call inviting me by the Israeli government to join some of my other colleagues, those that had been affected. A Virginian, an American, an Israeli citizen by the name of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, been taken hostage. I was joined in this trip to Israel by the Attorney General of Argentina, the Chief Counterterrorism Prosecutor of France, the Chief Counterterrorism Prosecutor of Austria, the Chief Counterterrorism Prosecutor of Germany. What I quickly realized on that trip is we were colleagues in a very unique way. Each of us had citizens that had also been taken hostage by Hamas. I was only in country for about 48 hours. I remarked to David Brand, who helped accompany me on this trip, that it was like visiting two different countries. Anybody that has been knows Ben Gurion International Airport is one of the busiest airports in the world. Surreal to show up in the middle of the day to have an airport that was empty. The only thing lining the walls were the faces of those that had been taken from their loved ones. First day, they showed us the footage. Never been fully released to the public. I know some people here have seen it. Close to an hour long, both footage taken from security cameras and GoPro cameras taken off the bodies of the Hamas fighters. Quickly was apparent to me that Hitler had tried to hide what he did. Hamas was actually taking these videos that I can only describe it as a celebration of death, cruelty. The next day, I went to Be'eri, Lutz on the border with Gaza. It was unlike anything that I'd ever seen. Early in my career, I'd been a prosecutor, so seeing both crime scene photos and sitting through an autopsy, you see certain things, but I had never seen from the video footage. But when I showed up at Be'eri, even though it was close to a month after the event, you could still smell the death, destruction. It was particularly powerful because I walked into a little girl's bedroom. I have 3 daughters, and this particularly affected me. When I walked into this little girl's room, I assumed she was probably no more than 7 or 8. Her dolls were still on the floor. She had overturned her bed, presumably to try to hide from the Hamas fighters. Corner, still bullet holes and blood on the wall. It was a surreal moment for me to then be standing in this little girl's room where she had been brutally murdered, to then be 24 hours later standing at JFK International Airport waiting for my connecting flight back home to Virginia, I look up on a television screen, see young American college students waving Hamas flags and shouting Hamas slogans. It was utterly, utterly shattering in many ways. At a time when we needed, desperately, moral clarity, I felt, indeed, I was seeing utter, complete moral confusion. The October 7th and the responses on so many of our college campuses and on the streets of the cities of America and in Europe, of those wanting to do harm to the Jews, to be clear, they made no distinction between the Orthodox or the secular. It was their mere existence that they objected to. And I have said before that anti-Semitism is the world's oldest form of bigotry. It emerges from the shadows through so many times through human history. And so often, it leads to utter, complete destruction and pain and misery. I encourage everyone here to visualize the images we've seen on some of our college campuses. And I want you to rethink of those images, but rethink of those images in black and white. Now go watch a documentary on Germany in the 1930s, before the Holocaust. Those images of the Hitler Youth protest, blocking Jews from attending classes, boycotting Jewish stores, and vilifying their fellow Jewish citizens. I would argue tragically today that in some ways what we're seeing today, if you visualize it in black and white, those echoes come back, and indeed the world's oldest form of bigotry is again emerging from the shadows. That's why it's incumbent upon us at all levels, in every elected office, and I'm so grateful for so many of my friends from both sides of the aisle that are here today, that when we see moral confusion, provide a sense of both moral clarity. Israel does not have a right to exist simply because of the Holocaust. Israel has a right to exist because Jews, like any other nation, has a right to their own state. And the Holocaust happened because Israel did not exist at that time. What is tragic is we are seeing so many anti-Semites on so many different areas. They want to bring us back to a time where the Holocaust is still possible. Well, never again means never again. It's incumbent upon us to stand with our closest ally during this time. I truly believe that October 7th and its response is the starkest moral test of our time, and it's incumbent upon all of us to pass that test. I'm proud of the work that we have stood with Governor Youngkin, both in our anti-Semitism task force and in standing so many of our college students. I have met with them. I've quietly gone to their campuses and talked to them about what they're experiencing. So many of them right now feel like they're looking over their shoulder in fear. It breaks my heart. As Attorney General, I view myself in some ways in the role as a people's protector. I had a student that shared with me an incident of them speaking out at a Student Government Association meeting. They returned back to their dorm to have a note on the door to their room saying, "You need to be quiet. We will seek the final solution on your rear end." Folks, I'm begging each one of us to never, ever be silent in the face of bigotry and to stand with our friends in this test of moral clarity. 1936, Winston Churchill gave a remarkable speech to Parliament, warning of the gathering storm and the challenges they were facing. He was speaking to, at the time, a very complacent British Parliament who wasn't saying the gathering clouds approaching them. And he said this. He said, "The era of procrastination is coming to its close. We are now, I'm afraid, entering a period of profound consequences." I would argue that is where we are right now. And it's so important for us to continue to lock arms, to stand united during this difficult time, to both stand up against bigotry and hate and anti-Semitism in all of its forms, and to provide that moral clarity that is so desperately needed. I'm honored to be your Attorney General on this unique day, where we honor those that have been taken from us too soon, but also stand for the life of the people of Israel and for all of us to love the good and decency of the Jewish people.